So hello everyone, we are back again with our latest video on SQL tutorial Ebikacho by Ebikacho Group, and in this particular video we are going to discuss HCL SQL interview question which are asked in the year 2025, and basically we are going to cover all the theoretical questions also as well as query questions also. So first of all we will cover all the theoretical questions, and then after that we will jump into the query based question and which we are going to resolve on SQL Server Management Studio. Now starting this video with the first question. So the first question will be, what is @ error? So @ error is a system function in SQL Server that returns the error number of the last executed transact SQL statement. If the previous statement encountered no error, so @ error returns 0 in that case. Otherwise, it provides the error number which can be used for error handling in SQL scripts. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So next question will be like, what is a linked server? So a linked server in SQL Server is a feature that allow you to connect to and query data from another database servers, whether it's another SQL Server instance or a different database system like Oracle or MySQL. So basically, link server will create a link between two servers. If even that server will be on SQL Server, or it can be on different relational databases like Microsoft, MySQL, Oracle, and all. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So we have the third question. So can we call store procedure in a view? So the answer is no. SQL Server does not allow calling a store procedure directly inside a view. View are designed to be select only queries, meaning they cannot execute procedural logic like store procedure. Okay. So in a view, we cannot call a store procedure. This is clear. Now, what is the fill factor? What is fill factor in SQL Server? So fill factor in SQL Server is a setting that determines how much space should be left free on each leaf page of an index when it is created or rebuilt. Okay, so whenever we are creating or rebuilding an index, so fill factor will decide whether how much space need to be left free on each leaf pages. Okay, so then this helps optimize performance by reducing page split and fragmentation. So basically it will prohibit the page split and index fragmentations, by which it will improve the performance of the query. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have, will non-cluster index are used every time by SQL Server Engine? So basically non-cluster index that we have created is used every time by SQL Server Engine or not? So basically these are the in-depth questions that are asked in theory, and mostly these are asked by the interviewer to check your basic knowledge and how much understanding you have on the core concept like indexes and all. Okay, so means read or learn also these questions and try to practice that also. So once you understand the how it is working, then it will be much easier for you to answer these particular questions in the interviews rather than learning them. But you must learn also while giving the interview. You must learn also, because to the point answer the interviewer wants from you, the exact definition, exact differences and all. So you must learn these questions also. So what is the answer for this? Will non-cluster index used every time by SQL Server Engine or not? So no, SQL Server does not allow use a non-cluster index. Whether a non-cluster index is used depends on several factors, including, so the factors on which the use of non-cluster index depends are: number one is query execution plan. So SQL Server optimizer determines the most efficient way to execute a query. So if a non-cluster index improve performance, it will be used. Otherwise, it will not be used. Okay. So number two is selectivity of the index. So if the index column has high selectivity, that is, it filter out a large portion of rows. So SQL Server is more likely to use it, that index. Okay. Now third one is index coverage. So if the non-cluster index contains all the column needed for the query, a covering index, it can be used without accessing the base table. Okay. So fourth one is statistics and cost-based optimization. So SQL Server relies on statistics to decide whether using an index is beneficial. So if the cost of using the index is higher than scanning the table, it may be ignored. Okay, so basically some of the cases will come where the means cost of indexing is higher than the table scanning, means the table data is very low and we can ignore the index at that time and we can use the table scan at that time, because that will be much faster than going and calling a non-cluster index from a different table set. Okay, so fifth one is the query complexity. So some queries, especially those involving joins or complex conditions, may not benefit from a non-cluster index. So basically the complex queries and joins, that queries are not benefited by the non-cluster index. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have, what are the different parts of a SQL page? Okay, so SQL pagination, we are also going to create a dedicated video on these concepts, but for now, for the interview purpose, you need to understand what it is and how to learn this. Okay, so what is a SQL page? What are the different parts of a SQL page in SQL? So a SQL page is the fundamental unit of data storage in SQL Server, with each page being 8 KB in size. It consists of several key components. So which are the key components? So parts of a SQL page. So number one is the page header, which is 96 bytes. It stores metadata about the page, including page number, page type, data index, etc. Free space available or allocation unit ID. Now second one is the data rows. So contains actual table data. Fixed length columns are stored directly in the row, and variable length column may be stored in overflow pages. Okay, so third one is row offset array, located at the end of the page. It stores pointer to the location of each row with the page and helps SQL Server quickly locate rows. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have, the seventh question. So what are the different types of database recovery models? So this come a question based on the recovery models in SQL Server. So SQL Server provides three type of database recovery models, each designed to manage transaction logs and data recovery differently. Okay, so first one is simple recovery model. So no log backup. The transaction log is automatically truncated, reducing storage needs. So basically in simple recovery model, the transaction logs are automatically truncated, and limited recovery options, so can only restore to the last full or differential backup. Okay, so this is the main point, can only restore to the last full or differential backup. Now best for development databases or scenarios where data loss is acceptable. So basically in simple recovery there might be some cases where we can lose data, so where the data loss is acceptable, at that places we will just do the simple recovery model, as it is it takes very less space, because it automatically truncate the previous storage and all. And the second one is full recovery model. So full recovery model, what it will do, so requires log backup. Every transaction is logged, allowing point in time recovery. Okay, so no data loss, ensures complete recoverability in case of failure. Okay, so full recovery will provide complete recovery in case of failure. So best for mission critical application needing high availability. So here the data loss is very less or null, no data loss. Okay, now the third one and the last one is the bulk logged recovery model. So minimum logging for bulk operations, reduces log space uses for bulk inserts. Okay, now point in time recovery not possible. So if bulk operations occur, log backups must be restored entirely. Okay, now best for large data loads where performance is prioritized over fine grained recovery. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have, so what are the different types of collision sensitivity? So this is also a very important question, and generally these questions the people will not practice before going to the interview, but generally the interviewer will ask these types of questions so that they know how much part of SQL you have covered. Okay, so what are the different types of collision sensitivity? So SQL Server supports various type of collision sensitivity which determine how data is stored and compared. So here are the main types. So number one is the case sensitivity, CS or CI. So CS is the case sensitive and CI is the case insensitive. So CS treats uppercase and lowercase letters as different. So in CS, like case sensitive, capital A is different than small a, and case insensitive treats uppercase and lowercase letters as the same. So capital A is equals to the small a. So SQL is a case insensitive language, that also you need to remember always. Okay, now second one is the accent sensitivity. So accent sensitivity, AS is the accent sensitive and AI is the accent insensitive. So AS, accent sensitive, differentiates between accented and non-accented characters, like this particular E, like Portugal E or something you can say, and this common E are not same. Okay, and accent insensitive treats accented and non-accented characters as the same. So here you can see the this E, Portugal E or the common E, both are same in this case. Now the third one is kana sensitive, KS. So KS, kana sensitive, distinguishes between Japanese hiragana and katakana characters. So if missing, treats hiragana and katakana as equivalent. So mostly three or four also if you learn, that will be enough. These questions are generally asked to check if you know about that or not. And the fourth one is width sensitivity, WS. So WS, width sensitive, differentiates between half width and full width characters. So common in East Asian languages, and if missing, treats half width and full width characters as the same. Okay. Now fifth one. So variation selector sensitivity, VSS. So VSS, variation selector sensitivity, recognizes Unicode variation selectors which modify character appearance, and if missing, ignores variation selectors. Okay. Now sixth one is the supplementary character support, SC. So SC, supplementary character support, enables support for Unicode supplementary character, and if missing, does not support supplementary characters. Okay, this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, so what are the disadvantages of stored procedures? So stored procedures in SQL Server offer many benefits, but they also come with some disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages of SQL stored procedures that we will check? So number one is the harder to maintain. So changes required modify the stored procedure directly in database, and version control is more complex compared to the application code. Okay. Now second one is the limited debugging and testing. So debugging stored procedure is more difficult than debugging application codes. So basically, means in real practice, the stored procedures are written very large and they have, and debugging stored procedure is a tough task. So in that cases, you can say debugging stored procedure is more difficult than debugging the application codes and required specialized tools or manual testing. Okay, so basically debugging you can do by specialized tools like SQL Server Profiler and all you can also use, and manual testing also you can use. And third one is performance issue. So stored procedure can sometimes bypass query optimization, leading to inefficient execution plans, and overuse of stored procedure may cause excessive recompilation. Okay. Now tight coupling with database. So business logic inside stored procedure make it harder to migrate to another database system, and application code may become dependent on database specific procedures. Okay. Now fifth one is the security risk. So poorly written stored procedures can expose vulnerabilities like SQL injection. Okay. And second one is requires careful permission management to prevent unauthorized execution. Okay. Now sixth one, scalability changes. So stored procedure may not scale well in distributed architectures and difficult to integrate with modern ORM frameworks. Okay. Now the next one is, like, next we have scalability challenges. Okay, now we have the next question. So that much is the disadvantages of stored procedure. Now next what we have, so how fixed length and variable length data types. Okay, how fixed length and variable length data types affect performance in SQL Server. Explain with example. Okay, so fixed length and variable length data types impact performance in SQL Server differently, primarily in terms of storage efficiency and then input output operation and fragmentation. Okay, so fixed length and variable length, you know that character is a fixed length and variable and varchar is the variable length. Now we will check this, and the example we will check while we are going to practice the query based questions. At that time I will show you what example you can provide. So this is the theory you can tell, and then the example I will mention while um, performing the query based questions. Okay, so fixed length versus variable length data types. So number one, fixed length, char, nchar, integer, etc. are fixed length data types. So consistent storage size, each row takes up the same amount of space even if the actual data is smaller. So even the actual data is smaller or anyhow, so it will take the length that is assigned to it. But if larger, then it will throw the error. Okay. And now faster retrieval. So since rows are stored in a predictable manner, SQL Server can access them efficiently. So basically in fixed length, the system already knows that this much character it is going to store. So that is why faster retrieval happens in this case. And more storage usage, so waste space when storing short values. So basically it will take the fixed length even if you are going to provide the smaller values also. So that is why waste space when storing short values. And less fragmentation, so reduces page splits and fragmentation. And what is in the case of variable length data types? So variable length data types are like varchar and text, etc. We can consider. So what are the functionality of these variable length data types? So dynamic storage type only use space needed for actual data and more row per page. So improve input output efficiency by fitting more rows in memory. And potential fragmentation, so can cause page split when data grows beyond allocated space. Okay. So slower updates, if a row expands, SQL Server may need to move it to another page. So basically we have created the detailed video on the data types, so you can check the data type videos also. And if you go through these questions, and you can search the part by part of these in our on our channel, so we have elaborated the store procedure as well as the data types and all these concepts. We have given a elaborated discussion on these on our previous videos, so you can check those videos also, so that you will get a clear idea on what is going on in these particular things. Okay. And practice more and more. So we have also provided lot of interview questions on our channel, so you can go each of them. Now move on to the next one. So next question what we have: what do you understand by index id equals to 0 and index id equals to 1 related to sys index table? What they represent? So what is the meaning of index id equals to 0 or index id equals to 1 in the sys index table? So this is also a very important question you need to mark, because people will not remember these kinds of questions. So that is why it is always advised that before going to an interview or something, you must need to go through the interview questions videos and all one or two times before the interview. Okay. So that you will at least go through each of the portions, what can be asked and what are the things that you don't know for revision purpose and all. So move on with that answer of this particular question. So in SQL Server, the sys index system catalog view contains information about indexes on table and views. So the index ID column in this table represents different type of indexes. So each of the index ID have a different meaning. So index ID values and their meaning. So number one is index ID equals to 0. So what it represents? It represents heap table. This means the table does not have a clustered index. So any table which don't have a clustered index is called the heap table. So heap table, this is in itself a question also. What is a heap table? So heap table, so this means that table does not have a clustered index and data is stored in an unordered fashion. So if you don't have a clustered index on a table, then the data is not stored in a ordered manner according to the clustered index. So that is why data is stored in an unordered fashion. So SQL Server uses an index allocation map IAM to track pages. Okay. Now move on to the next one. So second one is index ID equals to 1. So clustered index. This represents the clustered index. This means the table has a clustered index and data is physically sorted based on the clustered index key. Okay. So as we have the clustered index, then the data will be sorted based on the clustered index itself. Okay. So this is already discussed in our previous videos. You can check the detailed thing also, what are the indexes and what are heap tables, what clustered indexes and all these concepts. You must need to go through each of them one by one. Okay. Now every table with a clustered index will have an entry with index id equals to 1. Okay. Now third one is index id greater than 1. So it represents the non-clustered index. Okay. So represents additional indexes created on the table, and these indexes stored pointer to the actual data rows. Okay. So this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have. So 12th question is, can a store procedure call itself or recursive store procedure? So can a store procedure call itself in it, or it can be a recursive store procedure? So how much level SP nesting is possible? So how much level of stored procedure nesting is possible? Now move on to the answer. So yes, SQL Server support recursive stored procedure, meaning a stored procedure can call itself. However, recursion must be carefully managed to avoid infinite loop. Now key points about recursive stored procedure are: so recursion is allowed. A stored procedure can call itself directly or indirectly. Now exit condition is required. So without a termination condition, recursion can lead to excessive resource consumption or infinite looping also. Okay. Now maximum nesting level. So SQL Server allows stored procedure to be nested up to 32 levels. Okay. So basically one stored procedure we can nest up to 32 levels. Okay. This is clear. Now use @ nest level. This system function help track the current nesting level. So for checking the current nesting level, you can use @ nest level. Okay. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, what is forwarding pointer in SQL Server? How it is helpful in performance optimization? So what is forwarding pointer? So a forwarding pointer in SQL Server is a mechanism used in heap table. So tables without a cluster index, that we have already discussed, like what are heap tables. So tables without a clustering index. So we will go through beginning of itself. A forwarding pointer in SQL Server is a mechanism used in heap tables, table without a cluster index, to handle row update efficiently. Okay. So when a row in a heap table is updated and grows beyond its original space, SQL Server may need to move it to a new location. So instead of updating all references to the row, SQL Server leaves a forwarding pointer at the original location pointing to the new row location. Okay. Now how forwarding pointer help in performance optimization, that we will check. So number one is avoid expensive page splits. So instead of moving the entire row and updating all references, SQL Server simply redirects queries to the next location. Okay. And second number, so reduces fragmentation. So prevents excessive movement of data, which can lead to fragmentation and slow down queries. And number third is improves query performance. So queries that reference the old row location can still find the data quickly via the forwarding pointer. And now fourth number, optimizes storage usage. So helps manage space efficiently in heap tables without requiring a clustered index. So however, too many forwarding pointers can lead to a performance degradation, as SQL Server must follow multiple pointers to retrieve data. So regular indexing or rebuilding of heap table can help mitigate these issues. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, so this is a very important question. You must know this question. So what is the question? How do you optimize stored procedure? So this is the question that is asked from each level of candidates. Even 10 years of experience people also need to answer this question in their interview, and this is a must question that will come in the interview anyhow. Okay. So how do you optimize store procedure? So optimizing store procedure in SQL Server can significantly improve performance and efficiency. So some key techniques are, so these are some of the techniques that you can mention to the interviewer, so that they will know, yes, you have created the store procedure, you have optimized the store procedure, and you have worked with store procedure. So move on with the techniques of optimizing store procedure. So number one is use set no count on. So set no count on, what it will do? Prevent SQL Server from sending unnecessary row count messages and reduces network traffic and improve execution speed. Okay. Now second number, so use full qualified object name. So instead of select star from table, we need to use select column 1, column 2 from dbo.table. At least two part of table name we are providing, and the columns that we require, that we are providing instead of select star. Okay. So help SQL Server locate object faster, because we are providing the exact name and means two place name of the table also. Third number, avoid using select. So selecting only required columns reduces input output and memory usage and improves query execution time. Okay. Now fourth one, use proper indexing. So ensure indexes exist on frequently queried columns, and avoid redundant or unused indexes. Okay. Now fifth one, use stored procedure parameters efficiently. So avoid passing unnecessary parameters. So more and more parameters are not useful. So as much as used by you, that only you need to pass. Okay. So use sp underscore execute SQL instead of dynamic SQL for better plan reuse. Okay. So instead of using more and more dynamic, if we can prohibit the dynamic SQL, we can use the sp underscore execute SQL in that place. Okay. Now sixth number is optimize transactions. So keep transactions short to reduce locking and blocking, and use explicit transactions only when necessary. Okay, so use the transactions only when it is required. Now seventh one, avoid using cursors. So cursors are very bad for performance. So cursors are slow and consume more memory. Use set based operations instead of row by row processing. Okay. Now eighth, use if exist instead of count star. So if exist, select one from the table where condition is faster than select count star. Okay, so this has provided the example also why to use if exist in place of count star. Okay, if possible. Now ninth number is monitor execution plan. So use set statistics IO on and set statistics time on to analyze query performance. Okay, and identify bottleneck using SQL Server Profiler or Query Store. Okay. Now 10th number is keep stored procedure names unique. Avoid naming stored procedure with sp underscore prefix as SQL Server first searches the master database. So why it first searches the master database if we put the prefix as sp underscore? Because all the system stored procedure are prefixed with sp underscore which are available in master database. So that is why SQL, avoid using this sp underscore prefix for your user defined stored procedures. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, so SQL Server difference between session and connection. Okay. So what new query window that we are opening, that is a session, and connection that we are making a connection with the server, that is the connection. But how we can provide this particular in a detailed manner to the interviewer, that we will check here. So in SQL Server, session and connection are related but distinct concepts. Okay. So what are the distinct concepts? So number one, connection. So connection represents the physical communication channel between SQL Server and the client application. Okay, and can be established via TCP or IP name pipes or shared memory. A single connection can support multiple sessions, as we can open number of new query windows in a connection that we have done, and so that it is telling only. Now second number, session. So what session represents? Session represents a logical user interaction with SQL Server and stores setting like transaction isolation level, session variables, and execution context. Okay, so each session is assigned a unique session ID, SPID. Okay, so this you can mention to the interviewer. This is the difference between that session and the connection. Okay, now from here our query based questions will start. So we can first make it small. Okay, now from 16 we are going to check the query based questions. Now first of all we will check the example of the difference between char and var that we can provide. So what it is representing. So if you will declare, so declare two variables, declare how you can give the example for means fixed length and variable length data types. So you can provide declare one thing like name one, declare name one as char, and give it a length of 10 characters. Okay, and name, declare name, directly give the data type at the rate name, sorry. Okay, and declare different another variable like name2. So uh, name2 at the rate name2, which is varchar 10. Okay, and now give some values like set at the rate name1 equals to abhi abhi we can mention, and set at the rate name to equals to John, John, John. Okay, so you can see in char we have provided the length as 10, but the character size is of 4 characters only, the string size. And in name2 we have the varchar data type and the string sizes of 4 characters. Now when we execute both of them, so what kind of result we get? So select at the rate name one as fixed length, fixed, comma, at the rate name2 as variable, variable, variable. Okay, so name1 is the fixed length and name2 is the variable length. So you can see here when we execute must, okay, with the declared part we need to execute this, execute. So here we can see the fixed length is capturing. Once you go and open this, inside a single quote you can put this value. Okay, now here you can see it is taking the whole 10 length, even the even the character size is of 4 character. But in the variable length what it is doing, when you check the varchar, so it is storing that much only, that the character size is 4 places it is taking. Or also you can see like length, we can mention length of at the rate name, we can use the length function also to check the length, and then length of at the rate name 2. So like this you can define this also, like fixed length characters are taking that much space that is allocated to them, even the characters are provided are small, then also it will use the whole space. But in variable length characters we have the flexibility that if small size characters we can mention them and it will allocate that much space only. Okay, so if you check the length of both of them, what it is providing, 1 second. Okay, so fixed length it is providing 4 digits are there, and variable is 4, but length is 4, but space how much it is taking? So space it is taking, even the length is 4, it is capturing all the 10 spaces. But varchar is having the flexibility that it is taking only the length that is of the character, means 4 length, and then it is taking the 4 characters only, 4 spaces only. Okay, so this is the example you can provide for fixed length and variable length as example. Now move on to the questions. Okay, so we have what execute in SQL Server first. So in these particular they will provide the execution order, means some of the clauses they will provide, and then ask like what will be the execution order in this case. So basically on a execution order we have created a elaborate video on our channel that you can must go through after this, so that you will get the whole detail of what is the execution order and what execution order SQL Server follows for executing its query. But from here we can check this answer. So among the where select on from top, the from clause will execute first and determines the table involved in the query, and then after the from clause, on clause will work, which specifies the join condition when combining the tables. And after the on clause executed, where clause will execute, so which will filter rows based on the condition before grouping them. And after that where clause, the select clause will execute and specifies the columns to retrieve from the retrieve or calculate. Okay, and at the end the limit or top part will be executed, that will limit the number of rows need to be returned. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, what would be the output of the following query? So here we have a test update table, and this is the query like update text update set id equals to id plus select max id from the test update and select star from test update. So basically we have created this particular table in SSMS. We can go and check this particular question there itself. Okay, now paste this question and then comment it out. So on HCL interview database we have created this table. When we expand the table we have this test update table. Now select top 1000 from the test update table, and what the query is telling, so here it is telling like what will be the output of the query. So at the interview you don't have the means editor with you, you need to check the query and answer this. So basically what it is telling like update test update table and set id equals to id plus select max id from test update, and this table they will provide to you. So here you can see 5 is the max id. So what it is telling like update test update table and set the id to id plus 5. Okay, because max id is 5 here. So for using this example we can use it inside the transaction so that our values will not change. Okay, so you can write like for opening and closing, this I am telling you outside the thing. So for checking or some verification you can use the transactions and roll back that transaction so that this update will not happen to your actual table. So how to do this, like begin tran. So you need to start the transaction, so begin tran, and then you can simply mention rollback tran because we don't want this change to happen on our table. And now here we have the select star from test update. Okay, now execute this. So what this particular is performing, so previously here we have 1 2 3 4 and 5. So here when you execute, so here we have 1 2 3 4 5, and then when we are updating the values and adding max id, so 1 is becoming 6, 2 is becoming 7, and so on, like 5 is added to each of the ids. Okay, so this is clear to everyone. Now move on to the next question. So next what we have, this is a tricky question but not that much tricky. Okay, you can understand this from the updated statement, like we are going to add the maximum id and which is 5, so we can do this. Now what is the next question? So this is a very means rarely asked question, but if it is asked, so you must know some of the points from SQL Server data means system table which is spt value. You must know this particular table. So what it is telling, and many ways are there, but here in our example we will use the spt value table. Okay, so repeat rows n times according to column value in SQL Server. So what it is telling, now we will actually, this is the query that we will use, but we have a table created for this. Now first of all, comment this out. So what it is telling, so we have this table here which is table example, I think select top 1000 table example. So here you can see like this kind of table they will provide, like it has name and number of time. One integer table column is also there which is presenting the numbers, and there is the name or some string value will be there. Now what the question is telling, so repeat rows n times according to column value in SQL Server. So what it is telling, we need to provide the duplicate value or repeat, means we need to repeat the value of the name columns according to the n times. Like we have John 4 times, so 4 times we need to repeat the John. So Jenny we have 5 times, so we need to repeat the Jenny name 5 times, and Jennifer we have 3 times, so we need to repeat it 3 times. So for this what we will use, so for this we are going to use a system table which is sp underscore value. So first of all check the spt underscore value what it is presenting. So select star from spt underscore values. Okay, so it is available in the master database. Basically we need to provide the fully qualified name of the table. So what it is showing, so it is showing you some tables and numbers. So this detail you need to go and check, and we will also create an elaborated video on the system tables and all. So from there you can check. So basically spt underscore value table we need to use for this example. Okay, and this is the final query that you need to provide to the interviewer. So here what we are doing, so here we are doing like same query is written for the table. So here what we are doing, so here we are selecting the t1 from the t1 all the columns, and then t2 dot number plus 1. Okay, and then repeat number. So from table 1 example which is t1, and then joining the master table which is spt values, and then t2 dot type will be p, and t2 dot number should be greater than t2 dot n times. Okay, so basically this condition we are putting only for making this so that it will not increase more than this n times. Okay, so t2 number should be less than, okay, here it is wrong, less than t1 dot, it should be less than t1 dot n times, less than or equals to. Okay, now when we execute this, so this query I will provide you a detailed video on this. Don't worry about this for now. Keep it in mind. Like John, it is repeating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so John, it should repeat like less than only we need to put, not equals to. Okay, so here you can see John is repeating 4 times, and similarly Jenny is repeating 5 times, and then Jennifer is repeating 3 times. Okay, so for this system table I will provide you a detailed video, don't worry about that. And now move on to the next question. So next we have the 19th question. Okay, so what would be the output of the following string? So here we have a string written in Hindi language, and we have assigned varchar as the means data type of this particular variable. We are storing this Hindi character in this variable, so it is obvious that varchar is not handling Unicode characters, and it is handling only English characters. Okay, so for Unicode, what we need to use? We need to use the n varchar. If it will be n varchar here mentioned, then it should print something. But in this case, it is going to print an error. Okay, now copy this and check on SSMS what kind of result set it is providing. Open a new query window. Now this. So what we have done, declared a varchar, declared name as varchar, and then set it a value of Hindi text. Now we are selecting name. Now execute this. So you can see question mark it is providing. It is providing a means not error. You can say like it will not identify this particular variable, or it is providing an exceptional record set. You can provide in the answer. So how to make it a exact record set means result set, so that it will return this. So for returning this particular text, it should be converted to n varchar instead of varchar, because n varchar is handling Unicode character, whereas varchar is handling only non-Unicode. Like English language, it will only handle varchar. Okay, so for this, how we will use, copy the same thing. For getting the output from this particular query, we need to convert it to n varchar, and then at the variable we need to mention n before this, name as n varchar, and 20 we can keep the size like 20, declare name, comment this out, why it is providing. Okay, this is clear. Now when we execute this, so you can see it is printing the Hindi text also. Okay, so this is clear how to use different languages than English. So we need to mention that data type as n varchar, and this is by the point of view of working also, this is very important to know, like what is the difference between varchar and n varchar. So n varchar will support the Unicode characters also, like other than English, it will support Hindi, Chinese, Japanese also, Australian, any language. And whereas varchar will support only English language. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. So after this, what we have, so basically these are the trending questions that are getting asked in SQL interview. So basically we have some candidates who have given the interviews for HCL. So from them we have allocated these particular questions, and these are mostly asked in HCL interviews, and other interviews also it may be asked for MNCs and all. So you must know each of the questions and practice well. Once you practice well, you will show for sure you will score better in the interviews and get the job done. Okay, so before any interview, you must need to go through the question sets, interview question sets. So that is why we have created a complete playlist on interview questions, and we have provided questions from many different companies and all. And still, we are going to provide each day some question sets to you, along with the courses also. We are also providing the courses at the first half, and also giving the interview questions. So basically our main agenda is to make you ready, job ready. Okay, so first we will cover all the means together we will cover all the courses also, and interview question you will receive daily on our channel. So means it is clear. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have, what would be the output of the following script? So what would be the output of this? So what it is telling, copy this first and move on to SSMS. Open a new query window. So opening a new query window is opening a new session. Okay, and connecting this particular server is the connection to the server. Okay, now what it is telling, what would be the output of the following SQL script? So here you can see it is mentioning like if null equals to null, print true, else print 4. So before predicting what it is giving, like null equals to null, So null is an unknown value, we already know, and one unknown value can never be equals to a second unknown value. So it is obvious that the answer for this will be false, because this condition is not true. Okay, now execute this. So here false is coming. Okay, so these are very means small questions but a bit tricky, means people will generally get confused in this kind of questions. Okay, now move on to the next question. So next what we have the 21st question, which is what would be the output of the following query. Okay, so the query is select case when 1 equals to 1, then Abhinav Kumar 1. When 2 equals to 2, then Abhinav Kumar 2. And else Abhinav Kumar 3 and as name. So how it is going to execute? Now copy this same query and try to execute on SSMS. Paste it. So what would be the output of the following query? So here you can see if the first case is true, then it will print the means it will select the first thing like Abhinav Kumar, and if second is true, then it will first go through the second, means where it will find the correct condition, it will execute at that place. Basically the main agenda of this is like that. So when you execute this, so it will print Abhinav Kumar. Okay, because first condition is true. Now make the first condition wrong and then check. So 1 equals to 2, this is wrong condition, and then when we execute, then the first condition which is true, like when 2 equals to 2 is true, so it is printing Abhinav Kumar 2. And when we make this particular also wrong and then execute, so you can see it is capturing the third output. Okay, so this is clear. Where the condition is getting true, it will execute that part. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. And this is a news to tell you, like we are going to create the same tutorial in Hindi language also very soon. So if you want, you can comment out to us like how means you want the English Hindi language also or not. So basically we are going to create the channel on that Hindi language also, where we are going to cover all the concepts in Hindi, and we will go mix by mix for Indian people or our public, Indian public. We are going to create the Hindi language, and here we are mentioning the English language also. So those who are comfortable with English language, they can refer this channel, and those who are comfortable with Hindi language, they can refer Hindi language channel. And but for interviews and means for working, you must go through the English language video once. For understanding, you can go through Hindi language, but in interviews the questions will be asked in English. So that is why we are making the videos mostly in English, and we are going to launch the channel very soon. We will let you know at that time. Now move on to the next questions. So next what we have, what will be the output of the following script, like select count star. So what would be the output? So there is a one part only, select count star, so it will provide the output as 1. Now move on to SQL Server and check the execution thing. Now execute new query. Now what would be the output of select count star? So execute this, select this and execute. So it is providing 1 because it is counting star. Here nothing is there, one character is there, it is counting that, which is star. Okay. Now move on to the next question. So what would be the output of the following query? So you need to write this query to practice this. So what we are doing here, we are creating a table test with ID column, and then we are putting it inside some begin transaction 1, transaction 2, transaction 3, and rolling back transaction 3, transaction 2, and committing the transaction 1. So what would be the output for this? We first of all we will copy this, and then we will go and paste this. So just create the table first. What is taking time? We can check, might be some connection issues or something. So we can copy this and go to a different server, different database we can go, like SQL tutorial we can use. Okay, now paste it here. Now create a table here. So create table test. Okay, so table has been created. Now execute it, select star. It is currently ID only coming. So what it is telling, like we are beginning, we are starting 3 transactions and rolling back 2 transactions and committing 1 transaction. So what will be the answer? So by looking into it, you can tell like 2 and 3, like insert 2 and 3 will be not executed, and commit we are committing the transaction 1 which will be executed, but this is not the case. Okay, so whenever we are going to insert this, you will check the answer. So one row affected, one row affected, we are going to get a error message also. So cannot roll back transaction 3 because no transaction or save point of that name was found. Okay, so basically we are not providing any save points so that all the transactions will be committed. Now when we do a select star from test, you can see all the 3 records has been inserted, but our requirement is we need to roll back the third transaction and second transaction. So for this will provide you output like 1 2 3, all the records will be inserted, the rollback will not work. So the interviewer will ask you for confusing you in this particular question, but be clear, like if save points are not provided, then the transaction will not be rolled back if we are using multiple transaction, beginning multiple transaction and executing it. So how to make it clear, like how to means if they will ask like how to achieve the requirement. So for achieving the requirement, what we can do, we can add save points in this particular query. So how to do this, we will copy this and move on to the new query. So there I will tell you. So now drop this table first, drop table test1, because we have already inserted some records in this. So drop this table. uh Why it is taking time, I'm not sure. Query current. Okay, okay, we will check a different database. Okay, I will check later what is the issue in that databases. Okay, create table test1 id. Now execute this. So here currently, if you execute select star from test, it don't have any record. So how to make this particular transaction successful? So making this transaction successful, you need to add some save points on those transactions which you don't want to execute or you want to roll back. So basically we want the T2 will be T2 to roll back and T3 to roll back. So before the before beginning the transaction, you need to put the save point. So how to put the save point? So save transaction save transaction SP1, save point 1, and then the second save point we need to mention at before the third transaction begin. Okay, so save transaction SP2. Okay, and now what we need to do, we need to roll back SP1 and roll back SP2. Okay, and commit the transaction T1. Now when we execute this, begin transaction and rollback transaction. So what it is telling, cannot roll back SP2, no transaction or save point of the name was found. So save point we have provided or not? SP2 save transaction, SP2 begin trans, insert into this value. Save point we have already provided. Why it is not applying this? So here we can use this first, execute. So it has applied, but it is throwing, I'm not sure why. Okay, so you can see by applying the save points, we can achieve this particular requirement where we can insert only T1 record, committing the transaction T1, and other two transactions we are rolling out. Okay, so this is clear. Now move on to the next question. Okay, so any part if you don't understand, let us know in the comment. We will explain this again and again. Either in the comment we can explain, or on our Telegram channel we can explain, or even from Facebook we can explain, or in our next video we can explain. Anywhere from anyhow we are going to explain you these things. So any point you are not going to understand, let us know in the comment. Okay, so the last question is, what would be the output for the following script? So output for select null plus 5. So null is unknown, means unknown value, unknown plus 5 will be unknown value only. Okay, now execute this, copy this and go to SSMS. Then we will execute this and check. So when you select null from null plus 5, execute, it will return null. Okay, because null is an unknown value. So any arithmetic operation we will perform here, like addition, subtraction, division or multiplication, with it we can check from different things also. So subtract this, it will provide null. Multiply this, it will provide null. Okay, divide this, it will provide you null. divide this by 5, null. Even if you do the modulus, then it will provide the null, because null is unknown, and unknown plus anything or divide anything will be unknown only. Okay, so thank you for watching, friends. This is it in the HCL interview question set. And if you need the documents and the question answers also, if you need, you can go and check our Telegram channel and join that group. So there we are going to provide you tables, details and all, because that will be a better platform for sharing documents and all. Okay, so there you can go, and if you have any problem, you can comment us and let us know, or even you can contact to us. And thank you for watching. Do like, share and subscribe. And as we have mentioned in all our videos, like once we reach the milestone of 500 subscriber, we are going to create a master SQL Server tutorial on our channel, which series will be containing all from zero to hero, everything related to SQL, from administration part to performance tuning or some anything. It will be covering each and every portion of SQL Server. Okay, so that you will be and also we will means load some data loading program and all, and projects and all also we are going to load. So thank you for watching. Thank you everyone. Thank you.